Hi, and welcome to Fedmail. Thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon, for coming back, tuning back in. Hope you're doing well, in good health, in good spirits, especially given the circumstances. This was a very busy week for us, beginning with a wonderful craft fair held last Sunday at the JCC, put on by Mindy Hall, the Outreach Director for Jewish Federation. Thank you to all of the folks who came out for that. Also to the security volunteers who helped to make sure that it was safe, and we had Worcester Police there as well. Which was a paid detail, paid for by Jewish Federation. We also had a great history lecture put on by the Jewish Historical Society of Central Mass. Really cool. The Professor Hoberman, Michael Hoberman, talked from Fitchburg State, talked about the history of Jewish life in New England, going back to colonial times through to today. Mentioned during revolutionary times that a few of the colonial Jewish leaders had to hide out in Leicester, right next to Worcester. They came up from Newport, so that was cool. And we had a great attendance for it, hosted by Share Torah West. So that was awesome. Then on Tuesday, a day like no other, 290,000 supporters of Israel gathered together on the National Mall to demand the release of the hostages, to talk about our concerns about rising anti-Semitism, to support Israel. And this was just an amazing day. Bipartisan leaders from Washington were there on stage, along with the families of the hostages still being held. Incredibly powerful moment. There were also Israeli performers and Jewish celebrities and entertainers. Natan Sharansky, who back in the 1980s led the March for Soviet Jewry, was there, gave remarks. The president of Israel talked. It was special. It was unique. Even being at the rest stop on the way down on the highways, when you saw all of the Israeli flags and people who were headed to the rally, all on their way down to Washington, D.C., that alone was an emotional experience. Really brought me to tears. Truly did. And it was powerful, and I hope that it sent a message that American Jewry is strong. And I actually want to clarify, there were a number of non-Jews there as well, and they identified themselves as such, Christians for Israel and other groups, but I mean, predominantly this was a Jewish march. In fact, you saw a lot of people from Jewish day schools there, everyone from all walks of Jewish life too, from the very religious to the secular. It was so cool. But I hope that it sends the message that we are united with a united voice. We're standing strong, standing for Israel. We're resilient. The message was one of peace and of hope, which juxtaposes so differently from the anti-Israel marches that have been, hostile and aggressive, and in some cases violent. Even earlier this week at the Democratic national headquarters down in Washington, there was a big riot of anti-Israel activists. So I'm proud of that. I'm excited by it. I came back more hopeful than ever, engaged, and it felt great. So I hope that you tuned in if you weren't able to be there in person. We did have a nice contingent from Central Mass who traveled down there. I have to say, though, the cell phone service on the National Mall among 290,000 people, it was difficult to get service, so tough to do that. Spectrum, the news broadcast out of Worcester, interviewed me. They were trying to do a live interview, and I ended up having to record it and send it back to them. Hope you saw that as well. Following the march, I met with Jim McGovern, our congressman, for well over an hour to discuss in very strong terms how our community was feeling about everything that was going on related to Israel and rising anti-Semitism. I'd be happy to talk to you guys one-on-one about how that conversation went, but I can only say that it's more important than ever that we stress to our elected officials that the community wants to have their support and needs their support, and that for so much of the past month we've felt abandoned and alone. I know that many of us have, and to express really what we'd like to see, that they need to hear from us. They need to know where we stand on these issues, and I certainly appreciate all of you who have reached out, not only to me, but to reach out to me to tell me that you've reached out to our elected officials. So keep doing that. Earlier today, I met again with Congressman McGovern, this time along with Ambassador Marin Rubin from the Consulate General in Boston. And the conversation was similar, talking about our concerns about rising anti-Semitism, rhetoric around the war right now, and our concern about some of the statements and legislation that's come out. and what we're hoping to see. And that conversation was well over an hour as well. So we are certainly in the ear of our elected officials, particularly Congressman McGovern, and I hope that it results in actions and activities that are reflective of what our community hopes to see. I'll leave it at that. But again, I encourage you to reach out to us. I encourage you to reach out to our elected officials. It's necessary and we need to see it. With that, there's probably a lot more that I could say. I only wish to thank you once again for your continued support of our community and of Israel. Your emotional support and fortitude is fabulous. It's a model for how communities should operate. You guys have been terrific. Shabbat Shalom, and I hope that when we see each other next week, we'll have good news to report. Take care, be well. Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.